Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the man whose videos are the most watched on TED.com on the internet, Mr. Devdutt Pattanaik.
Good afternoon. My name is Devdutt Pattanaik. I am the Chief Belief Officer of the Future Group. It's an interesting title because it allows me to spend the days and nights just looking at Indian mythology and trying to understand what has our culture got to teach us. You see, it's very strange. You have a whole body of knowledge available, but it has never been understood or spoken of in a language of business. And when you do that, it becomes very exciting. When you talk about mythology, one immediately thinks about giving up the world. But mythology has a whole body of information that I have always wanted to share, and thanks to Kishorji, who strongly believes in Indianness, I have got the opportunity to do so. And I'll share some of my thoughts of what this body of knowledge can do, and perhaps it will be of value to some of you all. You see, ultimately, what is business about? Ultimately, business is about your investments. It's about the return on investment. It is your top line, your bottom line. At the end of the day, you are evaluated on the basis of your balance sheet. That's what business is all about. That's the end point, the measurement that we do. But sometimes, perhaps it's of value to go a little beyond that. People in India do a rangoli to get Lakshmi into their house. Rangoli is supposed to get Lakshmi into the house. The rangoli is the how we get Lakshmi into our business. It is the method that we follow. Different people have different rangoli. An entrepreneur here will say, this is the way to make money. Another entrepreneur will say, that is the way to make money. One person will say, invest here. The other person will say, invest there. Some people will say, invest in processes. Others will say, invest in people. Everybody has a different method. And a simple way to understand this is to observe how there are different rangolis in different people's houses. Because I believe my pattern is better than your pattern. A pattern of a rangoli is basically the method that I do to get Lakshmi into my house. It is my strategy. It is my tactic. It is the systems that I follow to get the money in, to make myself efficient and effective. In business schools today, this is the question that is constantly being asked. How do I do the perfect rangoli to get Lakshmi inside the house? How do I do this? What are the courses I should take? What are the people I should hire? How do I do this? I go to a lot of business schools and I keep listening to people, and the question is about, give us a toolkit that will make us successful so that I can plug and play. But what is missing often is a fundamental question. Why do I do this? Why do I do this? This is an occasional question. Some people ask it. Normally, this question as to why does business exist? Why do I invest so much of time, money, energy into business is not asked. But if one starts asking these questions, a loop is created. A loop is created. Because as you answer the question why, you understand how business runs. It's like saying, if Ganga is your business, the question why is the Gangotri. What is the primary motivation? Thank you. What is the primary motivation that made you step out into the world and build that business? Where does it come from? आपकी नीयत क्या है? कहाँ से आता है ये? जब तक ये प्रश्न नहीं पूछोगे तब तक धंधा ठीक नहीं चलेगा. It will go in all kinds of directions. The difference between a good and a great businessman is that the great businessman asks the question why. And by businessman, I don't necessarily mean someone who has a 1,000 crore business or a 10,000 crore business. Ask the panwala on the road, why does he do business? If he knows why he does business, he will be a better panwala. Why influences how. This is a fundamental difference that I observe. Somewhere, I don't want to call it the East-West divide, I don't want to call it the West and Indian divide, but sometimes I feel everybody talks about self-actualization. But you have to step back and say it's about self-realization. Do we know who we are to actualize ourselves? And the question why is what will make us ask ourselves, who are we? Why am I doing business? What is the kick that I'm getting? Where from comes this kick? That's what I want to know. And this can be asked, and it's a fundamental question you ask. I speak to students in big schools and I say, okay, why are you taking a course in finance? Why do you want to do chartered accountancy? Why do you want to become a lawyer? And often the answer is, but I got good marks. I got through the interview. But why do you do it? Why do you suffer on the road is the question that one has to ask. So let's begin an exploration journey. Today I want to ask the question why, and I will ask the question in the space that I am very comfortable with, which is mythology. I'm looking at the image of Lakshmi in front of me, and next on her hands there is a pot. And I'm asking, why does Lakshmi always carry a pot? Ghada kyun hota hai haath mein? Ghade mein itni badi cheez kya hai? What is the wisdom locked in the image called the pot? And perhaps when I ask the question why, I will get a wisdom that will enable me to how to conduct my life. Incidentally, in the Upanishads, the word for God is ka, why. And those who speak Marathi, they will understand this. Kavda sarkha kaka bola. If you keep saying why like a crow, you will get to the bottom of it. So why does Lakshmi carry a pot? Pot is business. There is water in the river, but only when it is collected in a pot and brought home does it become personal wealth. Until then, it is wealth of the gods. It is cosmic wealth. Only when you get it home does it become personal wealth. Pot, therefore, is a very sacred symbol. Now, animals don't need pots. Animals have never created a pot. Animals live day by day for their food, clothing and shelter. Whatever they want, they're focusing on their daily needs. They don't create a pot. So when I see a pot, I observe the existence of human intelligence. यहाँ पे एक आदमी आया था. If there is no pot, there were animals. You see, only humans can make pots. So when I see, even in archaeologists, the proof of human civilization is the existence of a pot. That somebody has used his brain. You see, humans are different from animals because we have a larger brain, and this larger brain allows us to imagine. We can imagine things. When you can imagine a pot. You can imagine the fact that, I will have to walk to the water hole tomorrow too. I don't want to walk tomorrow. So I want to prepare for tomorrow today. That power of imagination allows me to visualize the future. It allows me to visualize times of scarcity. It allows me to visualize the possibility that clay can be turned into a form in which I can collect water. A proof of human intelligence. And perhaps that is why we have the ritual of tilak. You put the tilak on the head to remind ourselves that you have a larger brain. Use it. You can imagine, and that's the first step of business, isn't it? Visualize, have a vision. This is what I want to do. So there is a gentleman who says, you know what, in Bombay, the cabs are so terrible. I'm sure people would pay for air-conditioned cabs. And you have Meru cabs. I can imagine. Somebody says, you know what, we have a problem in India about bathrooms. So I design a designer bathroom which is portable, which can be used in conferences such as these. I imagine it. If I couldn't imagine it, I wouldn't create it. Step one is imagination, and it comes from the head, or as I say in Malayali, buddhi ille. If you don't have intelligence, you cannot create a pot. The problem is, not everybody can create a pot. Everybody sees a lump of clay. Some people can see the clay as a pot. That potter, the person who can look at the clay and say that it is a pot, is the entrepreneur. He suddenly looks at garbage and says, oh, everybody says garbage, and he says, you know what, it's opportunity. I can see value in this. People need this. I have the imagination, I have the intelligence, I have the strength, I have the skill. I will create this magical thing which no one has seen before, called a pot. And everybody benefits from the pot. Look at those happy faces. Imagine if the first man had not made the pot, we wouldn't see these smiles of these women being able to collect water. Otherwise, like animals, we have to go every minute, every time you're thirsty, run to the water hole. You can carry it. Next time you look at the Bisleri bottle, remember, someone made the pot before. That wouldn't exist before. Simple thought. The question is, there is a benefactor and a beneficiary of the pot. The entrepreneur does business. Someone benefits from it. Who benefits from it? We use the word customer for this. There is an internal customer, जो आपके लिए काम करते हैं, the employee, and there's an external customer who pays for your pot, for your products, for your services. So there are many people who are benefiting from the business called the pot. There is the vendor who supplies the clay. There is the vendor who supplies the wheel. There is the person who is designing the pot, different types of pots, colored pots, designed pots, pots for old people, young people, rich people, poor people, different kinds of product, different kinds of innovation. And then there is the customer who is enjoying the benefit of the pot. So the pot has a vast impact on a large number of people, not always seen. Question is, and this is the fundamental question, why was the pot made in the first place? Imagination and inquiry tells you how. The question is not how. The question is, why was it made in the first place? We often confuse these two questions, how and why. And our education system is today totally focused on how. We have forgotten why. We have forgotten the journey to Gangotri. And I would like to ask myself, why was the pot made? And the answers can be very simple. First answer, survival. Water for today, water for tomorrow. Survival, very simple. So I am doing the business so that mere ghar mein roti kapda makan ho. That's the reason I'm doing business. That's the only reason. Okay, not just roti kapda makan, I also want the iPod, and I want the bungalow, and I want the Mercedes, and I want this. These are all necessary for my survival. The definition of survival varies from person to person. Some person is happy with his Nano, some person needs a Mercedes Benz. It's just a question of maapdand or measurement. But the fact is, it is for survival. Let's take it at face value. So the answer one is Lakshmi. An enterprise satisfies need for basic needs and luxuries. Simple answer. And this is the standard answer one gets. Let's look deeper. You see, when you do business, you feel significant. Kuch अच्छा किया hai. A sense of validation comes in. A sense of power. I did what no one has done before. I imagined it. I had this restlessness. I have satisfied this restlessness. I have done it. The sense of power that you have done what no one has done before. You have built a dam which no one has built before. You have built the roads which no one has built before. You have built the first road with no potholes, which has never been built before in India. This is what you have done, and there's a great sense of satisfaction. हिंदी में इसके एक शब्द कहते हैं औकाद. ये इससे मेरी औकात पता चलता है कि 100 करोड़ की बिजनेस से मैंने 10,000 करोड़ की बिजनेस 10 साल में लाया है. मेरी औकात बढ़ती है. उठने बैठने में लोग मुझे रिस्पेक्ट करते हैं. I get dignity, I get respect, I get awards. People stand up when I walk in. It's a very important reason for human beings. It's nothing to be taken. Auqad matters so much for every human being. It's not just about Lakshmi, it is also about a goddess called Durga. And Durga holds weapons in her hands, weapons symbolizing power. It makes me feel secure. It gives me a sense of achievement, power, validation, because people say, I have done what no one has done before. But then comes a third thing. You see, if you look at the pot carefully, a pot shows sensitivity of a person. Someone said, when I go to the water hole, I drink water. But if I have a pot, I can get water for my family. I can get water for my friends. I can get water for people who are not my family and friends. Sensitivity. And this is an answer that is never asked. Are we sensitive to the needs of the customer? Yes, we talk about needs of the employee, needs of the vendor. How sensitive are we? Because the pot is an expression of sensitivity, and that brings us to the third goddess. An enterprise has an impact. Because that sensitivity, I have to be sensitive to the fact that my business impacts me, mine, and others. This sensitivity is often lacking, and I consider this the missing goddess. While we are very aware of survival, कि पैसे कमाना है, कि respect कमाना है, लोगों का respect चाहिए. I want my father to feel proud of me. I want my family to feel proud of me. I want to earn a lot of money. I want a big bank balance. I want to... But this sensitivity part is not talked about much. It is the missing goddess. It is the goddess we leave behind in schools and colleges. एक बार पढ़ाई खत्म होगी तो सरस्वती को भूल जाते हैं. But Saraswati is it's all about how sensitive am I to information, data, knowledge. Am I introspecting what I'm observing? You see, in mythology, a potter is equated with Brahma, the creator. He created Brahmand, जहाँ पे लोग रहते हैं. But Brahma is like the entrepreneur. He built the business. Before him there was no business. After him there was the business. Before him there was no pot. After him there is a pot. But Lakshmi chases Vishnu, not Brahma. Nobody worships Brahma. At the center of the creator is not worshipped. What you worship is someone else. In fact, Lakshmi is chasing him. Why so? This goddess who holds the pot is running after this man, and the secret is Saraswati. Sensitivity. Sensitivity because it's about attention. Are my eyes sensitive to my customer? Are my eyes sensitive to the external customer and the internal customer? Am I sensitive to the vendor? Am I sensitive to the environment? Am I sensitive to the government? How sensitive I am? Who matters in my scheme of things? You see, what does Vishnu see? He sees fear, dar. And there are two types of fear that we have. There is the animal fear and the human fear. Two types of fear, the animal fear and the human fear. The animal fear is about survival. What if I die tomorrow? What if I lose everything? Dhanda chaupat ho jayega. It is the animal fear for survival. And there is a human fear. Log kya kahenge? Log kya kahenge? Naak kat jayegi. These are very powerful words, not just found in soap operas. Ekta Kapoor may have made millions out of it, but she knows what sensitivity is to significance. My value in society matters, and I'm afraid it will die, and that gives me stress levels. That creates fear. What is the source of fear? For animals, it's memory, but for humans, it is imagination. We imagine our status in society. Uski koi reality nahi hoti hai, but his imagination is important. It is the same place from where the pot came. We dismiss it. नहीं नहीं ये ईगो है मनुष्य है, उसका तो अहंकार होगा ही. Surrender to that reality. It happens to the person. Your secretary has this fear of significance. I am the secretary to the boss. What if I lose the job? Survival. Secondly, what if I am sent and told to work with the junior partner secretary? मेरी औकात क्या रहेगी कंपनी में? Because there is a pecking order even among secretaries. There is a pecking order among security guards. There is a pecking order amongst managers, amongst executives, amongst directors. It matters where I sit. Do I sit in an open cabin or a closed cabin? ये औकात की बात है. It has nothing to do with survival, but it's about औकात. And we don't value it, we dismiss it because औकात is not measurable. But it matters. The difference between the animal and the human being is that while animals only think of their species, we can think bigger. By species, I mean I don't just think of my family. I can include everybody. I can include those who are not part of my business also in my scheme of things. I can be sensitive to the fears of those people who are not my customers, not my employees, not my vendors, not my family. And that's what makes one person great. You see, it is this fear that some people we can exploit, because it is using fear I can domesticate people, condition people, get them to do what I tell them to do. But it is this very same fear that makes us creative, that makes us empathize, that makes us construct organizations where we can give shelter to other frightened people. If a business didn't exist, where would these people go? Jobs kahan se aayenge? The business is the provider. It provides jobs for many people, and that is their security. So that is the wonderful thing that an entrepreneur does, because it's not just about building the pots, it's also providing a value addition to those people who are working with you. If you didn't exist, they wouldn't have jobs. And that realization transforms an ordinary man into an entrepreneur, and an entrepreneur into a leader, that others matter. My business has an impact on the other. And the best way to understand is look at the story of Vishnu. And you have the first story of Vishnu is the Matsya Avatar. It's a simple story, comic book, read and forgotten. Listen to the story carefully. The story talks about Manu, the first man, approached by a small fish. And the small fish says, save me from the big fish. मुझे छोटी मछलियों से बचाओ, बड़ी मछलियों से बचाओ. Save me from the big fish. This one line in Sanskrit is called Matsya Nyaya, which is the law of the jungle. When Manu responds to the law of the jungle and says, I reject the law of the jungle, he creates human civilization. समाज की निर्माण होती है, where you say, I reject the law of the jungle. मैं पशु नहीं, मैं पुरुष हूं. And Purush means human. I am a human being because I am sensitive to the helpless need of the small fish. In the jungle, might is right. This is not affection. This is the pecking order. It is hierarchy based on the pecking order. This is Matsya Nyaya at work. This is Matsya Nyaya at work. To each his own. Everybody has to survive on their own. Use your strength, use your cunning, survival of the fittest, might has right, jungle law, jungle raj. This is what animals do. Humans can say no to this. And that is where the pot appears. That is why animals do not and cannot make pots. But our imagination allows us to grow out of Matsya Nyaya. Create an organization where people have shelter. And so you have this very simple axis to understand this very complicated word called dharma. Just draw a simple line graph. 0 plus minus. 0 is Matsya Nyaya, law of the jungle. Go in the plus direction and you have dharma. How sensitive I am to other people's fear, needs and wants. And go on the negative axis. How insensitive I am to other people's needs, wants, desires. And there you have the simple Indian philosophy in a single line graph. Dharma, adharma, and in between Matsya Nyaya. So the first story of Vishnu is simply telling you, stop being an animal. Don't be a Rakshasa, thinking only of yourself, because animals cannot exploit. Animals are incapable of exploiting, but humans are. That is Rakshasa Prakriti. You have the potential of becoming a Purusha and ultimately a Prabhu. It is just an extrapolation into infinity. Today you care for 100 people, tomorrow you will care for 300, then you will care for 20,000, 40,000, 100,000. But intellectually you can imagine the possibility of caring for infinite beings, and that is divinity. And so entrepreneurship and divinity are not two separate schools in India. It is the same. A simple way to understand what leadership is, just do 2 by 2 matrix. Let's use this famous matrix of the MBA schools, makes everything rational. On one axis put self, on the other axis put others. I matter, I don't matter. You matter, you don't matter. And just do a 2 by 2 matrix. And there you can understand Indian philosophy. Pashu ho, Purush ho ya Prabhu ho. It is just one simple space. Or ya, are you a stone that you don't feel for anybody? Complete indifference. Where do you come from? Why does your business exist? For yourself, for the other, or only for the other? Look at the words which were used in India. Jahan Pana was used for the king. Give me shelter. That is what people look for in a king. Chhatrapati. Give me shelter once again. Repeatedly through history, across cultures, in India, the king is looked for shelter. This is what your followers seek. We always talk about leaders, but what are the needs of the followers? The followers are seeking. They are the small fish, afraid of the big fish, looking at you and saying, help me. And your business is helping a lot of people. It's just that we are not sensitive to it. So what is entrepreneurship? Step 1 is about see, dekho, dekho. And Vishnu, they say, the Lakshmi resides, Saraswati resides on his tongue. Because he's sensitive, he's constantly looking at needs. And when he's looking at needs, he realizes that people need dignity. They don't want to be animals. They don't want to be exploited. They want opportunities where they can live a life of dignity. They want motivation. They want love. They want validation. They want approval. They want this. And his actions are motivated by the journey from 0 to the plus axis. And he pulls those people who are in the minus axis towards the plus axis. Read the Ramayana now, read the Mahabharata now, read the stories of Parshuram. They are the same story told in different ways, in different contexts. One consistent theme for the last 2000 years. And when you do that, Lakshmi follows. Because when you give me sensitivity, and a simple example, you walk into a store. You walk into a, okay, Shuriji is not here, so I can tell about Kishore. You look at a store, and what happens in a store? People don't look at you. You are bought goods worth 5,000 rupees and you're standing in a cash register. And there's a long queue and nobody is looking at you. How do you feel? You feel nobody cares for you. It is Durga at work. You feel insecure, angry, insignificant, invalidated. Just visualize if the store guys looked at you at that moment and took care of you. You would say, this is a good store, and you earn equity. And you'll come back to the store and Lakshmi follows. Simple example. Go to a simple... I look at the traffic policeman in Bombay streets. Everybody says, he is not doing, if he stops you at the signal, you know why he's stopping you at the signal. How many of us have thought that, you know what, this guy does not have a hat and he's standing in the sun. There is no loo around where he can go to urinate. There is no place provided to him where he can eat. He is angry. His dignity has been taken away from him. The only dignity he has is his uniform. And वो रौब चढ़ता है, रौब जमाता है, और everybody knows how to get away from a policeman. प्यार से बात करो, हो जाएगा काम. प्यार मतलब क्या? You are focusing on the D factor, no? उसकी औकात है, उसको दे रहे हो ना, माफ कर दो सर, बस काम हो गया. And you save your money. 5,000 की जगह में 500 में काम हो जाता है. If you were not sensitive to him, you would not know the value of significance. And if you didn't know the value of significance, you would have lost an opportunity. LSD. Lakshmi, Saraswati, Durga. 3 goddesses, consistent in culture, in temples. Whether you go to Mugambika in Karnataka or you go to Vaishnav Devi, there are always 3 stones. Go to Bombay Mahalakshmi, 3 goddesses, repeatedly giving a message. The question is, are we sensitive to the management knowledge provided by the gods in this culture for 3,000 years? We see stones, we don't see ideas. We don't see the ideas talking to us constantly, 24/7, but we are not listening. Perhaps it's time for us to listen at the images and stories and what are they trying to tell us. You see, entrepreneur doesn't just give shelter, he helps you grow. And so the Matsya, look at the Matsya avatar story. Once the fish is saved, the fish becomes big. And then says, usko bada ghada do. Give him a bigger pot, give him a bigger pot, give him a bigger pot. What is that? Increase the growth rate. Increase, what is the growth rate? That's what everybody checks, right? Or every business is growth business. Ye lo. Increase the size of the pot. What happens when you increase the size of the pot? It's just the question of the sphere of sensitivity. How sensitive are you? Today, I want a business because I can support 100 people in my team. Just change the axis and say, you know what, 5 years from today, vision statement, 20,000 people will work for me. मैं 20,000 लोगों को पनाह दूंगा. It's a different approach to the same top line and bottom line. Because of me, 700,000 customers will benefit. A different approach to looking at your vision statement. It is not about you, it is about them. It is not about the Pashu, it is about the Prabhu. And the journey from Pashu to Prabhu is the journey of humanity. In Sanskrit, the word bra means to grow, incidentally. Bra, the verb bra means to grow. Grow what? Saraswati, Durga, or Lakshmi. The tragedy is we look at a single axis when we are talking about growth. Tangible, measurable assets. Just break that paradigm. Look at the unmeasurable. Auqad ko dekho. Look at the sensitivity of human. Be more, increase your sensitivity. Increase the value of significance and the bank balance will increase. The balance sheet will be positive. It will reach infinity. It's not about becoming Brahma. It is about discovering Vishnus. If I create more Vishnus in my organization, each one sensitive to Saraswati, each one sensitive to the needs of the customer and the consumer, Lakshmi is bound to follow. It's a multiplier effect. It's a simple multiplier effect. The story goes, I don't know how many of you all know the story of the 64 elements of the chessboard. The man who built the chessboard went to the king and the king said, it's a very, very good game. What do you want? And he said, I want 1 grain of rice for the first square, 2 grains of rice for the second square, 4 grains of rice for the third square, 8 grains of rice for the fourth square. And the king said, I'll give it to you. A simple multiplier effect. The king did not realize by the end of the 64th square, he did not have enough rice in the entire kingdom to pay this man. The question is, can I transform people to be sensitive? That's how I grow. That's how the sphere of sensitivity increases. And so, are we aware of the Brahma inside us, who is not worshipped? And understand that the journey to be understood is a very simple phrase called Aham Brahmasmi. I am capable of growing my sensitivity to others. I am capable to be sensitive to their significance. I am capable of increasing everyone's wealth. I think this thought is what will lead us to the infinite potential that is in India. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you, Dr. Pattanaik. We decided with the energy in the room, instead of taking SMS questions, we're going to take direct audience questions. There are mics around to the right of the stage and the left of the stage, and we'll have Dr. Pattanaik choose the questionnaire.
It was very interesting speech.
Thank you.
Very inspiring as well. What I want to know is, how do you correlate the other ancient idols with the current business scene these days?
That's what I did right now, I thought.
No, you narrated only about the 3 goddesses. I'm referring to the other gods such as Krishna or Ram or Hanumans like that.
इंडिया में 33 कोटि देवताएं हैं.
Yeah, so you can
अगर
give
मैं बैठने शुरू करूं तो एक जन नहीं होगा. It will not be enough.
Okay. You can give 1 or 2
Or
examples.
you can, you know what, entrepreneurs, all of you all buy my books.
Okay.
Just buy my books.
Okay.
But no, the thing is, we can talk about each and every god. It's not about gods. It is not about goddesses. It is about the idea that is coming from these images. So if I have 33 crore gods and goddesses, it is not about the form. It is wo form ke piche thought kya hai. That is what we forget. We get very excited by the form. Form is good. It's good to have. It has ensured that the transmission has retained. But what is the idea behind the thought? What is the idea behind the image? What is the idea behind the form that we see, the photographs that we see? That is never explained. So that is the exciting part for me personally. Otherwise, there are many books which talk about the various forms and this is what Vishnu wears and this is what Krishna does and this is what, that doesn't excite me. What excites me is usme rahasya kya hai? Charitra mein rahasya kya hai? And I feel this was an example of what I did, but it extends. I mean, we have workshops for hours. We have created 64 ways of studying this, 108 ways of studying this, and it's not ending. And Kishorji always wonders, on Monday I give him a version and by Saturday the version has changed, because it is infinite. There's so much wisdom out there. It's shocking that nobody has seen it. So,
a simple request to everybody, please limit your dialogue to a question and not a philosophical discussion. Thank you. So we can get through several questions.
It was an excellent paradigm shift towards entrepreneurship, and I would like to have your presentation CD. The question here is, from a mindset normal, what you have, you always self-centered. मैं धंधा करता हूँ, मेरे लिए करता हूँ.
जी.
आपने आज कुछ अलग बताया.
जी.
How to transform ourselves to this, and then 1/64 का जो आपने राइस का बताया example, I think that's a formula which we can always look up to. Can you enlighten on that?
See, it's about the multiplier effect. We try to, the problem is binary thinking says that all or none. Think 0 or 1. The question is, one doesn't have to like, after listening to the lecture, now I'm going to be sensitive to everybody's needs. It doesn't happen like that. The question is, can I just increase incrementally and inspire others to just increase a little bit? That little shift over a large number of people has a massive effect. That's the only point. The point was only that. That's all.
Can we have the gentleman here in front, please?
Hi, here. I'm Santosh, and I've done a research on globalization and liberalization of higher education services.
Yes.
And what I've seen, which I've done in National University of Singapore, what I experience in India is, although the HRD Minister Kapil Sibal has publicly said there's 1 lakh crores of investment is required in higher education services, with the research that I've done, there's so many egos and jealousies that I'm coming across when I'm proposing, okay, India needs Indian School of Public Policy. India needs a global level of university. Even now, in spite of the population that we have, we don't have a university which has all faculties, which is in the top 100 universities in the world, which is the UK higher education ranking. So how do you manage egos and jealousies when you're doing projects, which is important for the whole country?
There's no one-line answer for this. But the fact is, let's ask, where are they coming from? Are they interested? What is interesting when you talk to the other person is, where are they coming from? Are they coming from, this is a classical example of Matsya Nyaya. I'm thinking of myself. I'm not thinking of those large number of people who are uneducated. So it's about my awqad, my presentation, my significance. So the conversation between you was a different conversation. It had nothing to do with those students out there who have no education. It had more to do with the significance of the person in front of you. And so that conversation would not go anywhere. I think awareness of that fact is step 1. And then the step 2 is, then what do you change about it? The standard answer will be, it will be the system. The question is, how Indians are very good at negotiating the ways to the system. I don't know if you've seen in the recent week, there is schools in slum areas which are funded by the people in the slum areas. The teachers are from the slum areas and the students are from the slum areas, and there's no support from the government. Such things are happening across India, because when somebody is behaving like an animal and just thinking about himself, one day people will say, get lost, I can live without you. And in India we have the jugaad ability to survive without the patronizing attitude of a government. I think that's the reason we have entrepreneurs, which says that, I will not let the Matsya Nyaya of other people get in my way, because I am Manu. So,
I have a question. You spoke about dharma and karma. What are your views on reincarnation, karma, transcending?
See, there are many
different
ways that, you see, the interesting thing about Indian philosophy is that it can be seen at various levels. At one level, I can look at reincarnation as a physical act. I will die and I will be reborn physically. But it can also be seen as intellectually. One way of being that I live only one life, but I can say intellectually I can die and be reborn as another person. An event will change me. For example, in the Mahabharata, you have the Vanavas of the Pandavas. For 14 years they are suffering this miserable life. If you look very carefully, it is the journey across the Vaitarani. Before the Vanavas, they were arrogant rulers of a kingdom who gambled their wife away. If you look at the story of Yudhishthira, before the Vanavas, the first brother he gambles away is Nakul, his step brother. But at the end of the Vanavas, what does he do? The first brother he saves is Nakul, his step brother. A transformation has occurred. So he has died and has been reborn. वो द्विजा बन गया है. So through the Vanavas can be seen as a metaphor for rebirth. So rebirth can be seen at various levels. Some see it physically, some see it intellectually, some see it emotionally. In one life I did not like my parents, but then something happens and then I discover them and I fall in love with my parents again. Second life has happened. So we all go through these dramatic changes, what I call Vanavas.
We'll take the last two questions, the lady here.
Good day. My name is Sheetal. I'm a student of Bellinger Institute of Management. So my question is, I believe that every character in Indian mythology is created with some kind of value system where we can draw lessons from. But in the process, mythology has been, come down to only specific rituals which are meaningless. What happened in the transition that we have forgotten what was the purpose and it's come to meaningless lessons?
I think we stopped asking the question why. And this is a generation which asks the question why. I think it's called the why generation. So yes, Sanatan hai, it will survive. There is a time when it will come back. It is about just sensitivity to that and you will get the answers. Nobody taught me. Nobody taught me. I didn't go to a school. I just saw. I'm trained in medicine. What am I doing here? Talking about the gods and goddesses. It just happens. You surrender to that. You surrender to the fact and you ask these very fundamental questions. I ask myself the question, why did I do medicine? Because I got good marks. Why did I get into medicine? Because everybody will say, kitna bada hai. Even today, if I want an appointment, I say, Devdutt, I don't get an appointment. Dr. Devdutt, I get an appointment. So, you know these things because you understand it. But my awareness level is increased because of our question why. And that's what the lecture was about. Yeah.
We have time for 2 or 3 more questions. That's it.
Okay, good. Take the gentleman there at the back, the one at the back there, the one who's standing in blue. Yeah.
Yeah, blue shirt, no?
Dark blue there.
Yeah, that guy. Okay. There are 2.
Hi, my question is that this is a great thinking shift in terms of being sensitive to your users. How do you get other people in your organization to think in this way, especially those who have already been set in their methods for?
No, you see, the fact is we are sensitive. It's a question of, it's not that people are insensitive. It's a question of how sensitive are we. You know, look at Apple computer. You just have to look at the iPod, you just have to look at the iPhone. The design has emerged out of sensitivity for the consumer, na? So it's nothing dramatic thinking. It's just that somewhere this is not a day-to-day thinking. It's not something that we do every day, but we are sensitive. It's not that we are these stones sitting over here and suddenly a transformation is taking place. It's a question of being aware and increasing the proportion of it. So if you're saying that we have to transform India, I think just a incremental growth in awareness and sensitivity will make a dramatic shift. That's all.
Yeah.
2 more questions, please.
Gentleman here in the blue.
Good afternoon, Doctor. This is Prashant Doshi. My question is, if you just go to the, if you refer to the idol of Lakshmi ji, you see the pot is tilted.
Yes.
Like that means the coins are pouring out. That means that the Lakshmi is not static, it's dynamic.
Yes.
So how do you correlate this with your entrepreneurial
No, it's
outlook?
very simple.
Thank you.
A rupee, it's simple economic principle. We all know that a 1 rupee note has no value unless it exchanges hands. The more number of times that 1 rupee note exchanges hands, the more number of times its value increases. So Lakshmi is always called as Chanchala. She is running all the time. She's restless. So the best way to manage her, she's going to run away anyway. So you create a pattern so that she runs in your direction. In fact, there's a very nice story of Lakshmi. I'll give you an example of native intelligence. Forgive me, the story of Lakshmi and Alakshmi. Lakshmi is the goddess of wealth and fortune, and Alakshmi is the goddess of misfortune and quarrels. And the two sisters one day came and they looked at a sahukar, an entrepreneur. And he asked them, who is more beautiful, Lakshmi or Alakshmi? And the entrepreneur said, let me think. It's very dangerous to upset either of the goddesses. So he said, you know what, Lakshmi is very beautiful when she walks towards me, and Alakshmi is absolutely beautiful when she walks away from me. So, simple design principle. I'm sorry, but this is just...
Last question, please.
We have known Kishorji as a very innovative entrepreneur who brings large format stores to India. We also know him as, I've known you as first chief belief officer in any company, anywhere that we have known. He's created a new post. What is the purpose to having such post and such, within organization? What is the thought? How does it benefit the business immediately? See, and what is your qualification to have this responsibility?
See, I'll give you two answers. There is a very simple answer, a jugaad answer, and a very deep and profound answer. The jugaad answer is by simply having this one designation, people talk to me. Imagine if I give you a visiting card saying Chief Belief Officer. First question is, ye kya hai? So there I got a conversation, I got inroad into your life, and I'll talk to you and I'll sell. The most difficult thing in sales is to get the road inside. I got it with this one designation. That's a pedestrian answer. But let's look at a profound answer. The question is, we all believe things when we are working. Kishorji has a belief. If you look at the value system, the first value system, and this was long before I came to the company, please understand that, is the first value system is called Indianness. And the last value system is called flow. By flow he means nature. So that is the belief system he has. He wanted someone to articulate it. And perhaps he found me as able to articulate what he's been thinking intuitively. This is my guess. I wouldn't know, you'll have to ask him. But I think what I bring to the table is articulation in a language. Imagine, I use 2x2 matrices. I use 2x2 matrices to explain Ramayana, Mahabharata, Puran, Shastra, Ved. I use 2x2 matrices, flow charts, tables. I use every tool which is used in the dummy's guide to understand Excel sheets. Because if that's the way people will understand, that's the way you talk. And I think that's what I bring to the table, because I feel there is a lot of wisdom locked in these scriptures. It's just that we have exoticized them so much that we forget that it is, ye utna hi Brahman ke liye hai, utna hi Banya ke liye hai. And it's just that somewhere it has been taken over by this whole exotic thing, and we have forgotten that we are the only country where we worship Lakshmi. Nowhere else in the world is Lakshmi worshipped with this grandeur. And there must be a method behind this, and I found the method in Vishnu Puran. So that's what I bring. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pattanaik. In the Thai spirit, we'd like to thank you for being here with us by making a contribution to the midday meals